Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Let me just grab the link and post it in a couple different places, and we will jump in. So let me find the link. All right, there it is. All right, so we just got another weekly candle, so why don't we just kind of run the gambit here. How's everyone doing? Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. All right, so we just got a new weekly candle. You can see it, just formed just a few minutes ago, right? I mean, just half an hour ago or so. So we have a new weekly candle coming in hot, and the valuation of Bitcoin right now is at 55,783. Okay, so things have cooled down a little bit over the last couple of weeks. If we zoom out and just look to see where we are, I don't know why I have this on. Let's just put on that one. Yeah, I mean, we've seen these pullbacks before, and we've seen them. We saw a 2-week pullback back in January. The following week was actually one hell of a week, because the following week we had these wicks that were fairly impressive, right? All the way down to 2,900 and up to 30, almost 3,900. It's a pretty crazy week the following week. So what we're looking at right now is, Bitcoin so far is in a downtrend from its global top of approximately 61.5K. If we look at the daily time frame and just sort of see where we are here, we are generally in a downtrend so far. Okay, so we'll see if we continue doing this. We know we've been seeing these before, but Bitcoin ultimately just breaks back out to the upside. Still, in a long time, we have not had a test of the 20-week, right? I mean, I don't know when we're going to have one, but the current valuation for it, and we'll probably do a video on it later, but it currently ranges from 38,332 up to 40,326. So the 21-week EMA is now above $40,000. The 20-week SMA is still just above. It's still below 40K at approximately 38.3K. In order for us to go to the 20-week, it would actually be another 30% dump if we were to end up testing it at some point in the next few weeks. Now let's look at some other things here. I know you guys like to see the pi cycle top. I think people are freaking out a little bit more than they should on it. Right? I mean, it's just a fit to 3 data points. Let's see where we are. They are getting rather close. So this one's at 40.4. This one's at 41.1. So they are getting relatively close. But we'll see what happens, right? We'll see if they actually cross or not. Let's go look at our regression bands and see where those come up at. So we've had a couple moves now into the peak regression band, right? So we had this move over here. And by the way, remember, the peak regression band is a monotonically increasing function. So we first entered it over here when the peak was around 58,000. We entered it over here when the peak regression band started at about 59.2K. Now what's interesting is our peak regression band now starts at 60,231. So we actually have to go above 60K just to be back within the peak regression band. And then the upper part of the regression band goes all the way up to approximately $88,816. So quite a range there. We'll continue to see how that one plays out. Let's also pull up our rainbow chart for Bitcoin. So we'll pull up the regression rainbow and see where we are on this chart. It's a bit of it really is one of those macro charts. By the way, if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Definitely subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Let's go for 275,000 subscribers. I can't believe we're actually at that number, but it is getting getting fairly high up there. Okay, so let me see if this will load. Then I can look at this chart. All right, I might need to go to a different one. Let me. Okay, here it is. So the only reason we're looking at this chart, let me switch it over to a weekly time frame actually, so we can look at it a little bit easier. Is we like identifying the accumulation zone and sort of where we are within the grand scheme of this cycle, right? So here was our accumulation zone last cycle, and then pretty much the same thing this cycle, again, just with a little bit more intra-cycle volatility so far. We've come up to this level here that we were also at the beginning of 2018. So remember, these are increasing, monocyclically increasing functions. So back over here it was at 9,500. Today it would correspond to close to, if we zoom in to get an accurate reading here, corresponds closer to 65K or so for us to break above it into this gray band. So far we have not actually broken into that band. I don't know if we will yet. I mean, we did come up to this band back in 2019 and then down to this one in 2020. Then we went up a few more bands so far in 2021. You know, we'll see what if we can actually push past this band and continue higher, or if we end up going back down. One thing to consider is that, you know, we've never really made it to the prior regression band, right? So this one made it here, the following dropped down a couple, the next one dropped down a couple or so, and then so far this one's down a couple. So I don't know if we're going to be able to move past it or not, but we will want to keep an eye on it. And regardless, even if we don't move past it in the short term, remember that it is increasing each and every day. So the regression band again back in 2018 was at, you know, closer to say 9,500 or just under 10,000. Today it's all the way up at around 65,000 to be in that same regression band that we hit in April of 2018. So with that said, what else do you guys want to talk about? Let's hide this. Let's get rid of these. Sure, we can look at the extension from the 20-week. I mean, it's the same thing, right? I mean, nothing's really changed. I mean, everyone always says it's different this time around, but in terms of the peak extension from the 20-week, we still are seeing the same pattern of basically diminished extension from the 20-week moving average as we continue on through each market cycle. So for Bitcoin there, nothing has really changed, right? I mean, it really hasn't changed at all. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so other things. Ethereum. What's Ethereum doing? Well, it's still chilling at just shy of 1,700. You know what's interesting? Last year around this time, I was making some price prediction videos for Ethereum, and I was calling for like a $700 Ethereum, and so many people were saying it's not going to happen. I was saying that I think it can go to, like, it was sort of like a shorter term market cycle projection for Ethereum, saying that it could go to $700 before trending higher, and a lot of people said no way. Little did I know, a year later, I would be consoling people because it can't get above $1,700 in the short term. When back then, people were criticizing the idea of it even going to $700. Now, $1,700 Ethereum is bearish for a lot of people. So again, the times can quickly change. And of course, some of it is recency bias and the fact that the Ether Bitcoin valuation has been bleeding since the beginning of February. We know that it tends to do really well in January. It's been bleeding since early February. If we go back to one of these charts, you know, I said before, I think there's a little bit more room for it to potentially bleed before we see a major reversal. And so far we have not seen that. If we put up our bull market support band, basically anytime we're above this band, everyone's bullish and crazy about Ethereum, and when we're below it, everyone's talking about how it's like a dead project and whatnot. I would say it's the same thing. It's the same type of rhetoric that we'll see time and time again. Yes, it'll go through these little sub-cycles of the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation. But remember, as we keep seeing, right, a new low can be sort of the prior high. A new low can be more or less the prior high. And then here, whatever this new low ends up being, I don't know, might correspond somewhere around these levels here. When people weren't nearly as bearish, now they're going to be super bearish at a 0.03 valuation. Over here, 0.03 would have been very bullish. I'm hoping that we get a turnaround point at some point, and then maybe we'll have a nice summer. That's sort of what I would think for, you know, I mean, of course, talking about this stuff is very dubious, right? We can't really know what's going to happen in the short term or realistically project out what might happen for the rest of the year. But we've seen before that Ethereum likes to bleed against Bitcoin in Q4. We've also seen before that it makes its major moves in January. And then we've also seen that if it does make a secondary move in the market, a lot of times it actually comes in the summer. So after a Q1 move, which it made mostly in January, it continued into February, of course, the USD valuation of Ethereum. But most people on this channel, I believe, are more interested in its Bitcoin valuation. And I would agree that's the way you should measure it, because again, we're taking on more risk with Ethereum. We would like to see it outperform Bitcoin at key phases. That justifies us holding it. So one dubious sort of speculation on short-term price movement for Ethereum with respect to its Bitcoin valuation is maybe it bleeds for a little bit longer, and then hopefully we can get cooking this summer. Maybe we'll see a really nice move, and then everyone at this point, if this were to happen, which again I don't know if it would or not, but if it were to happen, then everyone of course would be super bullish again, because every time we come up to the top of the channel, everyone gets super bullish on Ethereum. And then we know, though, that if that happens, we'll need to take a step back and realize what normally happens to the Ether Bitcoin valuation in Q4. So maybe that's when it would come back down. And sometimes it can start in Q3, and it could be a fairly substantial bleed into December, like we've seen a lot of years, right? I mean, this could just be one projection for Ethereum for the rest of the year. And of course, the one thing I feel like you can take to the bank on this is that what I drew here is not what will happen, right? This is not what will happen. I can assure you that what I drew is not what will happen. But if something like this were to happen and we started to have this summer bubble of Ethereum, and maybe it were to go to a valuation against Bitcoin of 0.05 or 0.06 or something, if we did come back down, or if we came up like this, I would say, okay, well, at this region, you know, if you're looking at one of these summer bubbles again, you might want to prepare for a bleed in Q4, like we've seen happen many times in the past, right? I mean, we had a Q4 bleed here, we had a Q4 bleed here, here of the Ether Bitcoin valuation. And then maybe if that does happen, we'll prepare ourselves for another January. So just some long-term dubious Ether Bitcoin speculation, right? By the way, if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. We're still putting in rookie numbers on the number of likes at 344. Look at how many subscribers we even have. We're at 273,000, so let's get to 274. How's everyone doing today? No, don't schedule the Forbes interviews. I would cancel them for now. Let's keep focusing on making money, right? I mean, we're still technically in a bull market, so you know, if you start scheduling the interviews now, then you might miss out on some stuff. How much stake should we put into the pi cycle chart? He said pie chart. I'm guessing he meant pi cycle chart. Again, it's a fit to 3 data points. Put as much value in that as you would see fit. I can't really tell you. I mean, I think that I mean, and some of my, and it's not to diminish that indicator. I think indicators are a good thing, and as many of them as we can is a good thing. So I think it's just one more tool to use. Try to find as many as you can. What is my hair routine? Wake up, remove the pillow from my head. Can I do the fair value equation for Ethereum? Sure. So let me pull that up. Let's pull up the Ether. We'll also do the rainbow one as well. So that one's the rainbow, but let's actually show just the fair value. So he's talking about this one, helping us identify our Ethereum mountain range here. So yeah, I mean, when we were over here, we speculated that we would form another mountain at some point, and here we are. And we're sort of seeing now if this is going to come back to the 20-week before maybe continuing higher. By the way, the 20-week SMA for Ethereum now ranges from 1266 up to 1317. So it's continuing to move up as well. Do I have any suggestions for resources to help learn quantum mechanics? Maybe get a bachelor's degree in physics? Yeah, the dollar has been doing relatively well recently, so I do think people should at least keep an eye on it. You know, we've discussed it on this channel a lot, and I don't think, you know, those videos when I talk about the dollar don't get as much interest, but, you know, when the dollar trends higher, it's not good for Bitcoin, and so far it is trending higher, and you notice that Bitcoin is struggling to put on a new all-time high. So, again, watch the dollar, because in 2018, the dollar went up, we had a bear market. In 2014, the dollar went up and we had a bear market. So I'm not saying that we're going to have a bear market. I mean, it's possible that we have a short bear market and then things get, maybe it comes back down. But if the dollar keeps going up, it's going to make it more challenging for Bitcoin to continue going up this quickly. This is not based on my opinion, of course. It's just based on looking at the fact that in the past, whenever we had a Bitcoin bear market, it also coincided with the dollar going up. And you can see that the dollar has recently gained some traction at the same level that it started to back in early 2018. So we just want to keep this in mind. It's not necessarily anything you can take to the bank, but if you ignore it, I don't think you're doing yourselves any favors. Yeah, I mean, it always could just be a pause in the bull market, right? I mean, you know, if you go back to 2013, we sort of had this, you know, we had a double peak cycle, right? So it was a bull market, and then we sort of paused for about a quarter, maybe 3 to 4 months, and then we maybe even longer. I mean, this peak was in April, and we didn't really break above that peak until November. So maybe a half-year pause is not necessarily off the cards, or it's not necessarily out of the cards there. So just keep it in mind. Keep that as one possibility. Let's not be too deterministic in our thinking. Do I own any cryptocurrencies? Why would I make videos on crypto if I didn't own any crypto? How can you have quantitative easing and a dollar index going up at the same time? Well, I mean, remember that people price things into the market before they actually happen. So markets are efficient, and you don't actually have to have something happen for the market to price it in. A lot of times, by the time you know about it, the market has priced it in. As an economics noob, how is the dollar getting stronger if inflation is going up? I guess I'm not entirely. I mean, there's just because there's more money in the economy. I mean, there are, like, a year ago when they started. At some point, I'm trying to remember when it was, but there have been various phases of deflation as well. You know, just because you think things have to go a certain direction, there's a big issue with people spending money because they didn't have the security that necessarily they wanted to. And there's also some private funds that'll sort of contract and stuff when the dollar is pushed into the market. So yeah, I mean, there are more dollars floating around, and there probably will be some long-term implications of that. I mean, we can just look at the money supply and see how ridiculous it is. But again, I mean, if you go back to last March and last April, everyone was calling for like a new Great Depression, and now we're just putting in new all-time highs in stocks. So whatever the sensationalist title, right, to get the clicks. But and the same way with mortgages and housing, everyone was calling for a housing crash. And I mean, I don't talk about it as much in the public channel. I do on the private channel. But yeah, I mean, there's no evidence. There was no evidence for a housing crash. And if anything, it's gone in the opposite direction. Yeah, I mean, the dollar price is relative to other fiat, basically major trading partners of the United States. I use Uniswap, yes. What online resources would I suggest to young traders who have no experience? Um, yeah, I mean, maybe just watch a lot of different. Well, I don't know. I mean, I have to be careful about recommending too many YouTubers because I don't want you to go and get shilled some BS leverage trading affiliate link. Um, yeah, I mean, so I don't really cover. I don't really cover short-term trading on my channel. This is more macro stuff. So if you're looking for short-term trading, you'll have to find that somewhere else. I've often contended that short-term trading is not really worth it. You probably end up losing money anyways, and you'd just be better off a lot of times holding and or making key swing trades occasionally, but not trying to like make like 10 trades a day or something. Geometric Brownian motion, my friends, a random walk. Do I like Michael Saylor? I mean, he's been a big proponent for Bitcoin. So I mean, I'm sure his I'm sure he's had some effect on the market, and that's only helped my portfolio. So I don't dislike him. Someone says geometric brownies in motion. Yeah, I saw someone say like geometric brownie motion. I'm like, no, it's geometric brownie in motion. Yeah, if Michael Saylor wants to pump our bags, I'm fine with that. Michael Saylor thinks that this bull cycle isn't going to end. Well, that is not true. It will end. But I would agree with him that I think it'll go long on. I think it'll go on longer than most people think. But I think there could be sort of like an intermediate bear market in between. Not like a. I don't think there would be like a year to 2 year bear market or accumulation phase. But would I be surprised if we had a 6 month cooldown period after such an amazing move over the last 6 months? No, I wouldn't. In fact, if we did have something like that, I would welcome it because I am fairly convinced that Bitcoin will trend to $100,000 within the next 2 years, maybe two to 2.5 years. Usually, I'm used to saying 3 years, but now that we're in 2021, I have to say, okay, the next 2 years, I think that Bitcoin will trend to six figures for more than just a day, right? I mean, it could even go up to $200,000. I think $200,000 might be getting a little too optimistic. But somewhere between 100 to 200K is my guess. But I would suspect that we're going to have a pullback. I would assume that we would have a substantial pullback before getting to 100K. But again, I don't know. Like, I could be wrong about that. I have been wrong about things in the past, believe it or not. So I could be wrong about that. I would assume there would be a substantial pullback before 100K. I mean, even if we broke through 61K and went to 70 or 80K, maybe we get a 50% pullback and people get very discouraged, and then eventually we trend up. I mean, if you look at 2013, we had a major move up to, we had a wick all the way up to almost $300. Then we were traced back down to $71, and by the end of the year, we went up to $1,300. So don't be surprised if something like that were to happen, because we have gone up relatively quickly. If we had a pullback, it would scare a lot of people, and it could shake out a lot of people. There's a lot of new money into the space that really have no idea what's possible to the downside. So my guess is we have a major pullback before 100K, and it probably lasts more than a few weeks, and then we'll then trend back up. later on. If Charles Hoskinson and Vitalik both offered you your dream job, who would you go with? I'm doing my dream job, so how can they offer it to me? I've had hedge funds reach out, actually. I just am not interested. I'm not gonna go work my ass off to make someone else money. Some hedge fund. Let's just focus. Let's focus on retail, right? Let's focus on retail making money. I don't wanna go work for a hedge fund or anything like that. So I mean, really, if you think about it too, retail, like there was that whole stuff with GameStop and whatnot, and hedge funds claiming that retail is too dumb to know how to. It's simply not true, right? I mean, I feel like retail have a lot more resources than they had in the past, and I do feel like they are a significant influencer of the market. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really interested in doing that stuff. Why am I so bearish? I'm not bearish. We have so many videos saying that momentum is more likely to take us up than down. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I guess this was maybe a troll or something. I don't know. What's the worst I've seen on YouTube? I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to get into that exactly. Someone says I'm bearish if I don't think Bitcoin will hit 1 million. I think Bitcoin could hit 1 million, but I don't think it'll happen this decade. Probably in the next decade, if I had to guess, but I don't think it would happen this decade. By the way, guys, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. I will remind you we have a Telegram channel. We have 28,000 people in there, so if you guys want to join it, I'm just gonna post it in the Telegram chat, so you guys should definitely go check it out. We have a lot of people in there. By the way, I will not message you first, so if someone messages you pretending to be me, just know that it's not me, and they are a scammer. And also remember, we also have the premium list altcoin season sale ending in 3 days. So if you guys want to get access to the weekly reports and videos, the premium Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, the app, and more, check out the sale before it ends. Do I think it's worth holding more than Bitcoin and Ethereum if your portfolio is small and DCA? I mean, I would always start with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then once you have positions in those, you could always branch out. Everyone ready to start off a new week? Any recommendations on how to talk to my parents on crypto investments? I think what you need to do is you need to show them some long-term charts. I mean, the hard part is if you show them a chart like this one that we have on the screen, it looks kind of scary, right? It's a tough position to be in, right? I mean, I think generally crypto is heading up, but I don't think anyone would necessarily be surprised with a pullback. With that said, I mean, even with this regression model, we could go up to 90K in the next few weeks and still be within our peak regression band. So I would just have them looking at sort of more of the long-term charts and showing that, like, yeah, there's major pullbacks, but we still generally trend upwards, right? I mean, it still hasn't stopped Bitcoin from continuing to put in new all-time highs, even if we spend a few years at lower levels. Do I think Bitcoin will still be here in a few decades? I mean, I would assume so, but a lot can happen in a few decades, so I don't know. Yeah, everyone asks me for Cryptoverse merchandise, but I've been pretty resistant towards that idea. It just sounds like something I don't really want to do. I guess the way to phrase it is I want to create Cryptoverse merchandise, but not as much as I don't want to create it. And so that's why I haven't created it. So someone says, can I be a guest on your channel and ask noob questions? Why don't you just ask him here? Why not just donate the profits from merchandise? It's not about the profits. Like, I wouldn't even make merchandise to make money. I just don't really have any interest in doing it. All right, what else do we have? My 5-month-old has not been sleeping well recently. Yeah, let's take a look at DOT. DOT's fallen below the 20-day and the 21-day. So, I mean, we'll see if it can get back above it. My main concern for DOT right now, let me say this. For the market cycle, I do think DOT will trend to a few $100s, okay? I do. Like, I really do think it'll go to 3 figures at some point this cycle. My main concern is just looking at it being below the 20-day and recognizing that, early on, when Ethereum got below the 20-day after a fairly substantial move back over here, it then just sort of trended sideways for a while, and then ultimately dumped down and then continued on. But it took it like 6-9 months or something. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin or Ethereum and DOT are on somewhat different paths. But it's just something to keep in mind. So yeah, again, if you're in it for the long haul, I don't really think there's anything wrong with looking at it from a macro perspective, but just recognizing that, hey, we could be trending sideways here for a while. What I'm hoping for, what I would like, I mean, I would like to see alts move for a few weeks. But if Bitcoin pulls back and we don't get that, then I think we're just sort of going back into accumulation mode for a while, and then we'll hopefully trend up later on if it doesn't happen in the immediate short term. So, I mean, part of me thinks for Ethereum, we have seen it make major moves like in the summer before. We already had our January move. We've also seen it make major moves like in April and May as well. So, I'm sort of hoping to see maybe Ethereum will make a major move later this summer. Right now, we're basically in what I would consider just the overvaluation reaccumulation territory, where we're very much overvalued compared to, say, our regression band, which was way over here. So we'll see. Am I planning to sell most of my assets when I think we've hit the cycle top? Yeah. Yeah. How did I like my engineering career? It was fine. It didn't last very long because I started doing this. I mentioned this summer is generally a bad time to put money into Ethereum. So remember, and I think this could be a misconception here, I think Ethereum actually does fairly well in the summer, but if you're FOMOing into it in the summer, that's when you can get burned because, you might be FOMOing into a pump that might be happening in the summer and then it retraces in Q4. That's where people get burned on Ethereum a lot of times. Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a lot of reason to be earning interest on your crypto. Remember to check out the Telegram channel. Let me link it again. Over 28,000 people. So remember, I will not DM you first. So if you join, ignore the people pretending to be me. When we get to the cycle top, will I cash out the stablecoin to reinvest during the retrace? Yeah, some of it, and some other asset classes as well. Projected cycle top for Bitcoin, I think between $100,000 to $200,000. But I don't necessarily think that has to happen this year. Capital gain optimization advice. Try to avoid short-term. I personally try to avoid short-term capital gains if I can. What are you doing when you finally made it? What I'm doing now? How old am I? I'm 30. Someone says I look like I'm 13 and 31. Or 35. I am 31, but someone says I look like I'm 13 and 35. Yeah, we can take a look at ADA. So ADA's at $1.18, still consolidating above $1, which is actually fairly impressive that it's sort of just chilling up here. ADA ETH, a bunch of nonsense on the chart that I drew another time, but let's switch this over to like a weekly time frame. Let me delete some of this stuff. So here we are, ADA ETH valuation. So if we were to go back up to this top up here, it would still, I mean, it's still like a 90% move if valuation of Ether stays constant. Actually, like 9900% move against Ethereum if we were to go back up to the same level we went to back in January of 2018. So I think I'll reach a 20x of 500 to 1 million subscribers. 20x of what? I mean, maybe by the year and I'll have 500,000 subscribers. I don't know. I've gotten like, I gained like 120,000 subscribers in the last 4 weeks. So it's really hard to make predictions on subscriber growth when it like, some months, like last month I gained 100,000 subscribers, but like other months I gained 3,000 subscribers. So it's really hard to make projections there. It sort of depends on the volatility in the market. Whenever volatility comes down, subscriber growth drops a lot. Like back in last summer, if any, who was here last summer? So last summer when we were or last April, May, and June and July when Bitcoin was like just trending sideways here between 8,600 to 10,000. There was not a whole lot of new interest in crypto because I was only getting like 20 subscribers a day in this region right here. So whenever volatility just really diminishes for a while, then subscriber growth drops off. Yeah, the channel blew up around the same time Ethereum did. I think that's right because, I mean, I got somewhat, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it luck or not. I mean, I have gotten some things wrong, of course, but we spent about 4 months preparing for this January move of the Ether Bitcoin valuation. So when it actually happened, I think that helped. I think that helped with subscriber growth, to be completely honest. If it had gone, if the Ether Bitcoin valuation had shot down at this level, then probably I would have lost, some subscribers. Fortunately, it went up. After this run is over, what price level do you think will be Bitcoin's bottom? You know, I have a couple models that I looked at before. If you look at the fair value at the halving, it tends to be, or the price of Bitcoin tends to be at the fair value at the halving. My guess is the price of Bitcoin at the next market cycle bottom will be around 50K, maybe like plus or minus 10K. Like I could see it as low as 40K, maybe as high as 60K. I do think the next cycle bottom will be lower than 100 grand though. Do I foresee myself continuing this channel in future cycles, and will you likely share your thoughts on accumulation periods on the public channel? Yeah, of course. We'll talk about that in future cycles. If we're in a bear market, we'll probably talk about other markets as well, like stocks and real estate, other stuff. It's just that we focus on crypto now because that's where a lot of the money is, where a lot of the money to be made is. Let's take a quick look at Link. So Link is still, I mean, it's still, remember, it doesn't tend to do much when Bitcoin volatility remains high. The 20-week for Link is actually at 2183. The 21-week EMA is at 2266. So, and the valuation of Link right now is at 2648. So I'd say Link is still doing relatively well, and I think patience will ultimately be rewarding for those who have Link. Not financial advice. I mean, you know, of course, we could always experience a pullback, but I do think that Link will go to 3 figures this market cycle. How can I believe this cycle will reach 100K? I mean, we said the same thing when it was $3,100. Basically, just based on the math. I mean, it's not a. It's more so based on on historical moves and somewhat dubious extrapolations for 100K Bitcoin. Why did I move from nuclear engineering to crypto? Well, I mean, crypto was a lot more financially, you know, crypto was a lot more lucrative than nuclear engineering. So what's your advice for fresh graduates? Um, yeah, I mean, you gotta. I mean, I guess it depends on what you graduated from, but I mean, in general, remember to think about this. Like, you have to go into the. You know, you have to think about like you do the best work, right? Like, if you don't believe you do the best work, then your boss won't believe it either. So, whatever you're, you know, if you have a job, do the best you can, and you know that it's the best, right? I mean, and just work really hard, and hopefully you can move up. Remember, no one's gonna fight for you but yourself, so fight for yourself. Are there Forbes interviews for monumental losses? Are molten salt reactors feasible? You know, the funny thing is like when I was in grad school, we did all these like calculations on all these different reactors and stuff, and a lot of them are definitely more attractive than like the uranium zircaloy, uranium UO2 fuel with zircaloy cladding. The problem with a lot of them commercially, it's not really a problem. It's just that everyone has so much more data on UO2 zircaloy, so therefore it's really hard. It takes a lot of work to, and especially you have to go through the NRC. It takes a lot of work to really get other reactors off the ground in a non-research reactor format. I do think that other reactors will, and I mean they already are to some degree. But yeah, I mean UO2 zircaloy has been the predominant one for decades, and it wasn't because it had the best material properties, because it didn't. It's just because that was where all the data was, and it was easier to go with what people knew rather than to speculate on what was unknown. No, I did not watch Chernobyl. If I predict this market cycle or if I predict this cycle bottom to be around 50K, are you saying we might not see Bitcoin below 50K? Of course, we could see it below 50K because, you know, if we were to come down, right, and do something like this for a while and then ultimately trend up later on, then this would be an example of going below 50K. And then if the market cycle, you know, were to peak either at the end of this year, like a lot of people think, I don't really think it'll peak at the end of this year, but I mean, we'll see what happens. If it does peak at the end of this year, this is still a great example of how it could, you know, like the cycle bottom could be around 50K. But I don't really think it lines up with a lot of the math, and I do like to stick with the math. So I mean, I more so would see something. I mean, again, it's not a popular theory in 2021 when we're looking at a $55,000 Bitcoin, but I would sort of look towards something like this. Look out here in this area, and then by that time, the regression band should be approaching the 40 to 50K territory by the year, somewhere all the way out here. So if you were to get something like this, right, then it could still come down to this level. But again, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's a theory. Certainly Bitcoin is accelerated quicker than I thought it would, so we'll take it one step at a time. But I mean, the reason I said 50K is in about 3 or 4 years or so, the fair value of Bitcoin will be about 50K. So that's why I said it. If it happens earlier, right? I mean, if the cycle peak were to happen, say, in a week or two, and we come back down, I mean, the fair value is increasing relatively quickly, but it's not increasing that quickly. A lot of times people, though, in bull markets have a hard time imagining going back down to the regression band. Like when we were, when we were at 20 in 2017, when we were at 20K, most people would have never believed it could go back to $3,100, right? But it did. So the longer we stay in the bull market, the longer, hopefully the fair value will continue moving up, and then whenever we do have a bear market, if we drop down to say the fair value, then it'll be higher and higher as time goes on. Yeah, one possibility that no one really talks about is what if it actually came back down like sooner, right? If it came back down like this, and then went right back up, that's always a possibility too. I don't know how likely that possibility is, but I mean there certainly has been more intra-cycle volatility this cycle than I was thinking there would be. So I don't want to get too like deterministic when we talk about what's going to happen, because this has been a lot more volatile than I thought it would be. Why don't I have a podcast? This is my podcast, just my YouTube channel, I guess. I don't have like I don't have just like a voice series or like an audio series or anything. No, I don't take the 4-year cycle as gospel, no. What am I eating? That was ice. Do I have any reason to think that Bitcoin is not climbing despite good news? It's because the news doesn't matter. Generally speaking, bad news does not affect Bitcoin in bull markets, and good news does not affect Bitcoin in bear markets. Someone says Bitcoin or Ben's Bitcoin bedtime stories. Well, I'll just have a podcast where I just say, shh, time is on our side. Someone says, oh, you liked the last video? What did you guys think about the Ethereum fundamental analysis video? Did you guys watch it yet? Alright, seems like you guys liked it. Someone says he taped it? What does that mean? You can just... What do you mean you taped it? Just play it on YouTube. I've never heard someone say they taped a YouTube video. Alright, why don't we wrap it up there? If you guys like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. We're still not even at 1,000 likes, but we have the Telegram channel. You guys can join that. And then we also have the premium list altcoin season sale, which we'll have go on for about 3 more days. So you guys can check that out if it interests you. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're just under an hour, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.